On this week's episode of BJ in the Morning, we're going to talk about Marvel's Cinematic Universe. Let's go! Welcome to BJ in the Morning. I'm Juan. Brendan? Brendan, you there? Hello?
Sorry, I forgot how to talk.
Oh, there he is. I forgot you were there. You were like frozen, and then I couldn't see you.
I've mastered the ability to move so slowly that I become invisible.
Marvel quotes already.
Already, dude. It just started.
Sick.
But yeah, welcome back to
BJ in the Morning.
BJ in the Morning.
Who knows what episode this is?
It's one of them.
It's one of the episodes
that
I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, and it's also still season 2.
Sure is.
Surely.
Sure is. That's not going to change.
Not
it's
for a
while.
It's
going to be season 2 forever.
Forever? We're not going to do season 3?
No.
Because season 3 of things is usually like when things really go off the rails and they change a bunch of stuff and then people hate it and then they go back to formula for season 4.
Right. Let's not do that.
I think it'd be really funny to just do one episode of a season 3 that's just bonkers, you know? Like the music changes, the logo changes colors and stuff.
Yeah.
It's called J and B in the Morning.
J and B in the Morning.
But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No.
We're going to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where we stand right now with it.
So we're going to take it back all the way back in the day, B in the D, to Phase 1.
Phase 1?
Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, hopefully, some of you are old enough to have seen this play out like we did.
We did see it.
But Phase 1 started in 2008.
Jeez.
That's a long time ago. That was before we graduated high school.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Like, Iron Man came out.
Like, we were literally kids.
We were children.
We were, like, middle school, maybe? No, we were in high school already. Yeah, high school.
Yeah, no, definitely high school.
For sure, high school. So, first movie on Phase 1 is Iron Man.
Great start. Like,
yes.
We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into when that movie came out.
Yeah, and you know, with like superheroes in the past before this, like there wasn't much to expect or to go off of.
Yeah, I mean, like we had like the Tim Burton Batmans, we had the 90s Blade movies, we had the Raimi Spider-Mans.
Right.
Not all of them, but at least 2 of them.
Right.
Did the third one come out by then?
Yes.
I know we were in high school for that one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the third one had come out already, but it was at that point, like, you know, CGI was still cool, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't the greatest. And I feel like they really revolutionized the, you know, superhero movies of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can still watch that first Iron Man movie and just, like, be totally into it and not think about how it came out in 2008.
Right. I still love that movie.
Which is almost 20 years ago.
I know. It's ridiculous. But I love that movie. I mean, it was a great start, and I can still watch that movie over and over and over.
No, for sure. And I think it, again, like I said, we didn't realize what we were getting into when that movie came out. I don't think anyone did.
Right.
We didn't realize where it was going to take us to now we're in Phase 4. Like, how many movies later? Like 50?
Yeah.
65 TV shows?
It's crazy to think that, like, all this time to where we are at now, like, was it planned from then? You know what I mean? Because they've done a really good job making it seem that way, like it was.
Right.
So, but they were definitely planning up to the Avengers, starting with Iron Man.
Yeah, and even with that after credit scene and everything, like, it was, they knew what they were doing then.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we talk more about these phases, will it still feel that way? You know, like,
right?
Because the next movie on the list is The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
How well do you remember this movie? Because
I just watched it not too long ago. Actually, I watched it because with my girlfriend, she hadn't seen all the Marvel movies until we started dating with Maria.
Makes sense.
So, what was coming out? Oh, She-Hulk. When She-Hulk came out, I wanted her to know who the Abomination was. So we watched The Incredible Hulk. So she got kind of like a backstory of the Abomination.
Yeah.
Given that was the last time we saw him.
It really was.
Yeah.
Like, well, not really, right?
I mean, we saw him in Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
But, like, that was the first time we'd seen him since 2008.
Yeah, and if you had never seen The Incredible Hulk and you just see this big monster fighting, like...
He was like, what the...
You're like, oh, whatever. It's just it's a Marvel movie.
yeah, it's just
it was an alien.
Random monsters. So, and then after that was Iron Man 2.
Still good. Does it hold up to the first Iron Man?
No, I don't think so.
I can tell you that, like, our buddy Killian still quotes this movie daily. Like, just asking where his bird is all the time. You know?
Yeah. But did they introduce the 10 rings in Iron Man 2, or was that Iron Man 3?
I think it was just Iron Man 3. Well, I mean, they introduced it in the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been
like
giving us Easter eggs.
Yeah, because, well, like, when Tony Stark was taken by the, like, terrorist group, they had the 10 rings in the background and stuff. So, I mean, they've been around the whole time. But I don't think it was really talked about in the second one. I haven't seen the second one in a long time either.
Me either. I haven't seen that one in a while. But then after that was Thor.
I don't even know how to talk about Thor. Like, it's so... I personally think Thor starts at Ragnarok now. Like...
Yeah. I feel like the character development of Thor like happened the way it needed to happen.
Yeah.
But then we got to this point, which we could talk about later, that I don't like. Okay. So I agree, Thor 1 was not the best movie considering what Thor is now.
Yeah.
But it does show, like, he was an arrogant, young asshole who wanted to be king so bad that he did whatever he thought he had to do to be king.
Yeah.
Which wasn't always the right choice. So I feel like Thor 1 needed to happen in regards to his character development.
Yeah, I think for me, like, the biggest issue with the first Thor movie is they take this really serious, like, Shakespearean director. Like, Kenneth Branagh is known for directing, like, Shakespeare movies, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the result we got was tons of Dutch angles and, like, just weird direction that seemed more Shakespearean than it did Marvel. So it was really out of place at the time.
I feel like it was super out of place. But at the same time, they did try to stay true to how Thor was in the comic books.
Yeah.
Which was very serious and very, you know, like Shakespearean spoken. Right. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
like very Viking-esque and royal-esque, and I feel like that's why they did it that way.
But did it work at the time?
It was slightly boring.
Yeah, right.
It was
like,
pretty
it was really
boring.
Slow.
The fucking Thor was dull, very dull.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure if like Thor was meant to have a personality, but seeing it on screen with no personality was like very boring.
Yeah, and then you have really strong like supporting characters that seem out of place because of him, you know, like Kat Dennings' character.
Yes.
Was it
her.
Darcy? Yeah, she's big personality. She's funny. She's
young.
Yeah,
at the time.
energetic.
Yeah.
And then there's Thor, who's like, I'm Thor.
Yeah.
You know, like,
another. Bring me another.
It introduced some really good characters that it's been cool to see grow over the years. Like, who would have expected some of them to show up, 10 years down the road?
In Phase 4, yeah.
So that's been cool. But after that, I think we had Captain America, the first Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something about that movie, man. It's great.
It hits home.
Yeah, and
sure.
I think like it is, it's set back in like World War II, and it's really cool to see that time period of like the universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right?
How it all started.
Because that is where it all started for the most part. That's, based on what we know right now in the MCU.
At the point. Well, it did go back further, like with Eternals and stuff like that. But the Eternals is part of the galactic Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, not Cinematic Universe, but Marvel Universe, rather than our core Avengers team that everybody knows, everybody loves. Right,
that's the universe we're in, right? The Earth is 616.
616. Well, I thought it was like 19999999999.
I don't remember,
or something like that.
They've changed it like 4 times.
It is 616. So,
and then we finished off that first phase with the Avengers. Marvel's the Avengers.
Groundbreaking.
Who would have thought like a movie of that caliber would have like played out so well?
Honestly, when the Avengers came out, it was literally everything I wanted. In how long? 4 years?
Yeah.
It was everything I wanted watching Marvel movies for the last 4 years. Like, I always love a good crossover in anything. Like, if there's like a TV show or a fucking movie or anything, and you see all these characters cross over, like, I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
And just the fact that we built up to like an ultimate crossover to where they do exist in the same world, and I felt like that movie was groundbreaking for the time.
Yeah, despite the director being kind of terrible, like as a human being,
right?
It was good. Like everyone doubted that it was gonna work.
Yeah, but you think that? Do you think that they could have done it any other way?
I think there's a yes and a no answer to that, right? Like, yes, because we've seen it done multiple ways with all the Avengers movies, right? Even more characters being added where we still feel like they're fleshed out and like we have enough of their backstory to understand who they are and what they want.
Right.
I think the only characters that didn't get love in the first Avengers were like Black Widow and Hawkeye, right?
Yeah. Well, they didn't have any character development.
Right.
They were just kind of thrown in. Like, fucking...
Like when a Mega Block ends up in your Legos pile.
You're like, what the heck?
Can't use this, but it looks fine.
Yeah. Well, then you get there, and if you don't know Marvel, and you don't know Black Widow, and you don't know Hawkeye, you're like, why?
Yeah.
How? How is this even possible? You got a fucking team of superheroes.
And then...
with powers.
Two peeps without powers.
Two peoples.
Yeah.
Yeah, two peeps.
Yeah, they got gadgets.
They got cool gadgets.
But,
sick.
Iron Man doesn't have superpowers, but he's got a whole suit. Why didn't they get suits?
Right. Right. But then you're like, okay, the more you see of Black Widow, and then you see Black Widow, the movie, and her backstory and all that, and then Clint Barton, you don't really get to see his backstory or anything like that, but he was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense, I guess. But even still, to this day, it doesn't make any sense.
No, and
which kind of makes those characters fun, though.
Right, because they're just people.
Yeah.
Like, they have more to lose than the superhero people,
And that's kind of like what sparked the Hawkeye series, was like Kate Bishop was like, I don't have powers.
Yeah, but you can still be powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not really planning on talking about shows right now, but that Hawkeye show is so underrated. Like, it was so fun. It was so good.
I loved it. I loved every second of it.
I know we're both really big like Haley Steinfeld fans. She kills it in that, and like the like humanity behind Hawkeye and everything is sick. But I mean that, like I said, we're not really talking about shows.
No, not yet.
Not yet. But that's phase one. So now the hardest question is, what's your favorite and least favorite movie from this phase? And I can start with my favorite if you want.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Captain America, and the reason behind that choice is the period piece of the movie, like it being set in the 40s, seeing how like all these characters stem from Captain America.
Right.
I think the action was good. The comedy was good. It was well timed. Red Skull's a terrifying villain.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Chris Evans just built for that role, you know?
Right.
So
it's hard to not agree with you. I'm not saying I disagree, because I don't. It's one of my favorites, hands down. Definitely top 5. But I want to say my favorite would be Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
For the sole purpose of, like, I saw it fucking 13 times in the theater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I loved that movie, and that movie started it all.
Right.
And Marvel has been killing it
Mm-hmm.
with all their movies. Well, most of their movies.
Yeah.
90% of their movies. But I want to give it to Iron Man for starting. Because if Iron Man would have fucking flopped, would we be where we're at today?
Probably not.
We'd probably be in a fucking DC whirlpool that they're in right now.
Is DC doing... We're not talking about that.
No, right. We're not talking about DC. But still, it's like they try, it flops. They try again, it flops. They try again, they do a good job, and then they fuck it up in the next one.
Yeah.
You know? So if, like, Iron Man wasn't so successful, would they have found, like, the tracks they needed to follow to get to where they're at now?
And I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So big shout outs to Jon Favreau.
Shout out.
And
Jon
RDJ.
Favreau is a fucking genius, dude.
He makes some good stuff, you know?
Does.
And, like, seeing Robert Downey Jr., of course, like, come back after all the shit that he's been through and, like, come back and he's like, I'm going to be on top again.
Yeah.
He fucking did it. So I agree. Like, that's a good one. I still think if I'm going to pick between any of these, like, my first one is probably going to be Captain America. And I think a lot of that just has to do with just the overall, like, you have different settings, different times that you're dealing with. And, like, that whole ending scene where he wakes up in, like, present day, like, I don't know, something about that. It's like, oh, yeah, dude, he's
fucked up.
Yeah.
He's fucked up.
And I have a strange feeling we're going to agree on our least favorite.
Okay.
But something's telling me just by the look on your face that we're not going to agree. But I'm going to go with Thor as my least favorite from this phase.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with Thor. It was either Thor or Iron Man 2. And I feel like as good of a movie that Iron Man 2 is, it's the easiest to forget.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Like, it just kind of fades in.
It fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out. And
but Thor is always there. You're always like, I got sick watching that movie. And, like, Hawkeye in that movie is, like, a total asshole.
Yeah.
Like, he's not likable whatsoever.
Right.
So, like, they tried so hard to make him a badass when, like, he can naturally be a badass. He doesn't have to, like, be silent in the shadows like he is that whole movie. You know?
So I agree with Thor just because I have to be really in the mood to watch it now. But like I said, I'm on the fence with Iron Man 2 and Thor because Thor was okay. Yeah. But it was boring at points. Iron Man 2 is not boring. But like I said, it's easy to forget about. Right. Just because didn't really
it's not
play
memorable.
a huge role in the road down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. We'll say Thor.
And then we go on to phase 2.
Phase 2.
So what's the first one on this list?
Phase 2, Iron Man 3.
I hated this movie when I first watched it.
Yes. No,
when I first
agree.
watched it, I hated it.
Yep.
But it came out in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
How old were we then? Like 20 something, 22?
2013, we were like, I want to say 19 maybe.
Are you sure?
We were 17 when we graduated.
So, I
20.
mean, we're 20, right?
20.
21, around there, right?
20, yeah.
It came out in May 2013.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I watched this movie was during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And it clicked. Like, I realized that movie's solid. Like,
yeah.
I get it now.
I
don't think I got
it again.
I think you should.
Okay.
Because it's what they tried to do with this movie was give like humanity, like feelings and emotions to superheroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's dealing with this like PTSD of Tony Stark and how he basically saw himself die. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He during Avengers, spoilers, I guess, for a 20-year-old movie, but he takes a nuke out of the city into space and just accepts his death, right?
Yeah.
He sees most of New York get destroyed by aliens.
Do you feel like that was underappreciated?
What?
What he did?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They were all just like, oh, you did it. Cool.
Moving
on.
Thanks. Let's clean up the city.
Yeah. And then they just go get friggin' shawarma.
Yeah.
But rewatch Iron Man 3. Also, I think it's a great like Christmas-esque type of movie.
Yeah.
Rewatch it, dude. You'll get a new understanding for like Tony Stark as a character.
I just hated the whole deal with the Mandarin.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
I hated the whole deal with whoever the guy, the actual bad guy who
Killian?
fucking Killian
Aldrich
Jones. I hated that,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated the fact. I guess at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I hated that Tony Stark was so willing to give it up at the end, even though obviously.
Right,
he does not.
Yeah, he was like, no, fuck that. I'm just kidding, JK.
Yeah, and then that whole like end fight scene with all the Iron Man bots and shit. I was like, that could have been done better. From what I remember, I haven't seen it since it came out.
You're sleeping on it. Yes, I can agree that the Mandarin business was kind of dumb.
Yep.
Ben Kingsley though, solid, great choice. He was terrifying as the Mandarin.
Yeah.
What's his name? Because he's not the Mandarin. He's an actor, right? What's his name? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Anyways, I think. Oh, it's Trevor. I think it's funny. I think it was a little too much, especially as like a third act reveal.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the things besides that, like the fight with all the other like versions of the suits and stuff, when you really watch it again and you're like, oh, like Tony was scared as shit.
Yeah.
So he just overly obsessed for this protection and then realized he doesn't, like, all he needs is himself and Pepper, right? Like that and Happy. Don't forget about Happy. But that's all he needs to be safe, right? So, I don't know. I'd say rewatch it. It's not as bad as I originally thought it was.
Okay.
It holds up. And that kid, don't remember his name at all, but he shows back up in the later movies, right? A decent addition. Is he kind of annoying? Yeah, but he's a child.
Yeah.
And Tony's like, I don't know. It helps Tony realize his future, and I think it plays a lot into his relationship with Spider-Man later on.
I agree.
What's next?
It is Thor: The Dark World.
Do we need to talk about this?
Nah.
Can we do a whole like thing like they did in Endgame where Thor just quickly recaps this movie because no one saw it? The red stuff, the ether.
Yeah.
Dumb. Chris
Well,
Eccleston though?
how was a I didn't understand how the fucking Infinity Stone was a fucking liquid.
The thing though, I don't think it was originally supposed to be an Infinity Stone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just a very confusing like plot point and like detail that I think they just didn't execute very well.
Yeah.
And then they had to retcon it later to make it make sense.
Yeah. I mean, they try to make it seem like, yeah, sure, it's the Reality Stone, but like, the stone does not have. It's not sentient. You know what I mean? It cannot use its power on its own, and I feel like that's what they made it try to do. Like, oh, it's this liquid form because it's like, the Reality Stone. It can be whatever it wants, and it's like, no, it cannot.
But they did it.
They did it.
What do we need to remember from this movie? Basically that
Jane soaked it up through her skin.
Yeah, and they took it out of her. What's next on the list?
Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
I feel like this movie was such a tonal shift for Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Like, it was dark, it was gritty, it was action packed. It felt like a Jason Bourne type of movie, you know?
Yeah, so at this point you're starting to realize that Marvel could shift. That Marvel can go from awesome action-packed movies to more of the spacey, galactic, different tone.
And then they can bring it all around to like a political thriller, you know,
where
you know, like what's good and what's bad, you know?
Like anything that had to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. was more on that Jason Bourne type of movie.
No,
which I thought was really cool.
And the introduction of the Winter Soldier, like just his first like that whole action scene on like the freeway, still one of my favorites from the whole Marvel cinematic, like everything, you know?
Right.
And it just felt grounded. It felt more like realistic. I mean, with a little bit of grain of salt or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
The suspension of disbelief was high, but I felt like, oh, this shit could happen, you know? Like,
right.
Dealing with like Hydra for the first time. I don't know. It was such a big shift. I think it's one of those movies in the entire MCU that will always stand out and be at the top of my list in general.
For sure.
And I don't know. Was that the first time we had like the Russo brothers direct one, right?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna assume so.
It looks like it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was their first one. And they just set an entire sense of where the whole MCU was going, you know?
Yeah.
With that movie.
Yeah.
Specifically. So
then after that, we got Guardians of the Galaxy.
This movie just came out of nowhere.
It was fun.
I still love this movie.
I did have high expectations, though, and was let down.
Oh, yeah?
The whole time, because we went to go watch it together, obviously. The whole time, I was praying to see Nova.
Same. Nova.
Praying.
Do you? No one realizes like everyone thinks Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and yes, Spider-Man up there, but Nova number one for me because nobody knows Nova.
Dude, I love Nova.
And we got all these hints to Nova.
And I was expecting maybe like at that final battle when the Nova Corps puts up that shield and fucking Ronan is coming in with his ship. I was thinking like just Nova was gonna come out of nowhere, like he was some weapon that they had hidden so that they can stay under the radar. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it didn't happen. And I love that movie, but just for that letdown, it kind of like put it lower on my list of favorite movies. Like I do love it. It's definitely one of my favorites, but definitely lowered the score for me.
Yeah, because like I love Nova, and I want to see Nova eventually.
I'm sure, and we will, but just the fact that it's been how long? Almost 10 years since that movie came out.
And still nothing.
And still nothing
no
about
Richard
Nova.
Rider at all.
Nothing. No mention.
Because he's
nothing.
like the leader of the Nova Corps. Like,
yeah.
He was taken from Earth, just like Star-Lord.
And he's fought with Guardians of the Galaxy multiple times. But now that we know now, like, it's possible Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be coming to an end.
Right.
We're not going to see that crossover now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless he comes out in the next Guardians movie.
I mean, we get 2 more movies, right?
We got the Christmas special.
Which looks fun.
It looks fun. It looks kind of like not Marvel.
I think it looks Guardians of the Galaxy, though. You know what I mean? Like, for their level of, like, out-of-the-box kind of humor. I mean, it's Drax and Mantis. Yeah. You know what I mean? From what we can see. And I think it's just kind of on brand for them as a group of misfits and tryhards. You know, like, they try really hard to be good.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. And it'll be the first time we really get to interact with the Guardians on Earth. Yeah. Other than the one fight that they've been a part of, right?
Right.
So.
Well, then moving on to Avengers Age of Ultron.
How do you feel about this movie? Because I'm 50-50 with it being awesome and it being not awesome.
I think that movie was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, personally, that movie... how do I put this? It kind of gave you, like... It opened up the door to, like, what Tony and Bruce Banner are capable of. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, you know, Ultron became what everyone's afraid of now with AI. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of, like, made you think, like, you know, this could really happen.
Yeah.
You know, like, not exactly, like, what that movie is, but this could happen. A fucking AI who becomes, like,
sentient,
conscious enough, conscious
yeah,
enough.
Yeah, that's the word. Good job. Was that a hard one for you?
Conscience. And yeah, it's just like, it was really cool and really fun to see. And then another, like, again, another team up where they had to team up, and they had to use Wanda and Quicksilver, who were their enemies at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I felt like it was really cool to see that, you know, to see them be able to unleash and use their powers without, like, the whole you're killing people type. You know what I mean? Like, they were fighting robots.
Yeah. And, like, so the reason that I can't give this movie, like, 100%, like, oh, I love it, I think the stakes weren't high enough.
Right.
I mean, they...
Oh, fuck.
Now, Juan, stop dropping...
I'm sorry.
We can't drop the mic at the beginning of the episode. But the reason that this movie, like, doesn't hit for me as much is a lot to do with just... The biggest death toll was just from them dropping the city out of the sky, you know?
Yeah.
And the entire lead up to that movie, every trailer I watched, every, like, anytime I looked into it, I predicted that a more important character was going to die. I understand why, like, legally, they couldn't make someone else die. They had to have Quicksilver die.
Yeah.
But in the context of the MCU, like, I thought Hawkeye was going to die 100%, like, in that movie, because every single trailer, if you look at them now, you'll think that no matter what, they were setting up him to die. And that was the same thought I had in a later movie, like the last 2 Avengers movies. They set everything up for us to be like, oh, Hawkeye's going to die, and then they don't kill him.
But at this point, we don't know enough about Hawkeye.
Right.
To feel bad about him dying.
We knew nothing about Quicksilver.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We knew more about Hawkeye than Quicksilver.
Yeah.
But I think the bond between Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver was stronger, was more of a shock for us than it was to just have Hawkeye die.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't find out about Hawkeye's family
Until
or Hawkeye's whatever until Civil War?
Yeah.
So I think it was a good decision for him to not die.
And see Civil War again. We're not there just yet, but like that movie too. It's like that whole thing. They give all this backstory to Hawkeye, and they let him live.
No stakes.
I don't want Hawkeye to die. I like him as a character now, but back then I did not care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other thing too is Scarlet Witch was kind of terrifying in this one, and then she was never terrifying again until like WandaVision. Yeah. But she was terrifying for other reasons, and of course like Doctor Strange, like she's terrifying in that too.
Right.
But at the time I was freaked out by her, and then the next time we see her, she's like chill.
Well, like, then she does accidentally, in Civil War when he blows up like fucking, what's his name, Crossbones or Skull?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bone Crusher, Bone Saw, whatever his name is, Crossbones.
That sounds right.
Well, when she blew him up and accidentally fucking blew up the building, and then it was like, man.
But she actually felt bad about that, you know?
Yeah.
We also get introduced to Vision in this one.
Yep. I love that.
It made sense because it's how it happens, you know, for the most part in the comics. We had to say bye to Jarvis, but we said hi to Vision.
I want to say in Age of Ultron is when Thor started taking a turn.
Like becoming more like comedic and stuff.
Yeah, but then I feel like Age of Ultron was what they wanted Thor to be like in Thor.
Like the first movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, like from a story writing position, Thor becomes less Thor, like Thor, and becomes more like, I want to fit in, I want to make friends, I want to like not be human. Thor. Yeah, he becomes more human and less God. And that's where like the silly nature comes out, and that's why like when we talk about the next Thor movie, we'll get into that. But I think he becomes more like, he starts looking into human culture and like what makes a person, and that's what starts changing him to like want to fit in and want to be friendly and joking and everything, and then everything shits the bed later on for him too, you know what I mean? So
right.
Like but yeah,
so then after that, Ant-Man.
I fucking love Ant-Man.
I love Ant-Man.
Nobody else likes Ant-Man. You know what I mean?
I thought it was like a turn for Marvel to show, hey, we can be funny too, without just throwing in comedy points in movies.
No, and I think it also like another turn was they went to a different coast, right? To show that there's other heroes out there. They tied some more like Hydra elements into things, right? Like shield elements, all that stuff. And Paul Rudd's just great for Ant-Man, like because I feel like Paul Rudd's like, he's going in there like everyone's gonna just be like fucking Ant-Man, whatever. Yeah. And that's how he kind of played it. It's like no one's gonna give a shit that I'm Ant-Man, but they're gonna give a shit about everything else that we put in here, right? So like. Right. Paul Rudd's one of my favorite like comedic actors. He puts a lot of heart into his comedy, I think. Like he makes you feel for his characters. Yeah. And everything about Ant-Man, like,
well, the whole progression of Ant-Man in that movie was like you wanted him to succeed.
Yeah, you want Scott to win.
And just seeing him grow as a character in that movie alone, I felt like it was perfect because it was like just enough backstory, just enough training, and then just enough heroic action.
Right.
And I was like, damn.
And it was all contained, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like the world was going to end. It just felt like if what's his name? The guy.
Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
But it felt like if he won, more shit would happen down the line, but it wasn't going to end the world right then and there.
Right. So I do love Ant-Man. It made me feel like they can successfully do a backstory with him becoming Ant-Man with enough time to be Ant-Man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when he came around again, it was like,
that's Ant-Man.
He's Ant-Man. Yeah. Like he's ready. You know what I mean? He's not new anymore. So I love that. I love that they could successfully do that in one whole movie.
I think all the characters in that movie are great. Like I quote Baskin Robbins always finds out all the time. Great line.
Yeah.
Michael Pena.
Awesome.
So good.
Yeah.
And I think their whole backstory, you understand it immediately, right? They don't it's kind of exposition, but like their company's called X-Con.
Yeah.
Like it's because they're ex-cons, right? Like and that's all you really need. I don't give a shit what they did to go to jail, you know?
Right.
I know that they're doing better now. And then that the ending part where he's telling the story and it flashes to everyone and it's all his voice. I think that might be the best thing I've ever seen in a Marvel movie, like comedy-wise. You know?
That was great. Didn't they do it twice?
They did it in the second one, I think, right?
Oh yeah.
Not as solid as the first one.
Well, the first time just kind of like
out of nowhere.
Yeah. It pulled the rug out from under you.
And the funniest thing is like he goes through all these different layers, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh, I want to know more.
Tell me the whole story, bud.
It's like in the Super Troopers, where it's like, would you like to know more? I'm like, have Michael Pena just tell me everything that happened in this movie, please.
Right.
But that ends phase 2, I think, right?
Yeah.
Also, real quick before we do this next part, I wish Edgar Wright would have finished Ant-Man, because he started it. He's my favorite director. You can see his influences in this movie, like with the pacing, with the quick cuts and like things like that.
Yeah.
I want Edgar Wright to finish a superhero movie for Marvel, because I think it will be such a huge departure from what we're used to. It'll be something more like Ant-Man, which Ant-Man had stakes. It was fun. I remember most of that movie. I quote it all the time. Anthony, come on, you're out there. I know it. But like, I would love to see like different style directors like that, more niche directors make Marvel movies. So.
Right.
But yeah, I think the question of phase 2 then is like favorite and least favorite. Do you want to start this one?
Sure. I'm going to start with my least favorite, and that is Thor, The Dark World. Watchable. Don't care about it, to be honest, at all.
So I wrote my list down before we started talking just to make sure I couldn't change my mind. I have to agree. Least favorite, Thor: The Dark World. I think the best way you can enjoy that movie is just that scene in Endgame. You know, like when even Thor's just like, yeah, I guess the stone isn't a stone; it's a liquid.
This happened, and that's it.
That's all you need. So yeah, that's also my least favorite.
And then my favorite, and it's hard to choose, but I want to say my favorite was Age of Ultron.
Interesting choice.
Because of, like I told you before, I love the crossovers. I love the crossovers, and I love seeing, like that final battle when they're all like in that fucking
the little dome thing,
and they're all fucking fighting
in a circle.
You get to see Vision. Like you don't really need a backstory for Vision.
He's a robot.
He's a robot. He's a robot. He's a robot, and he's badass.
Yeah, he shoots lasers out of his freaking head.
But if that, it's close for my favorite between Age of Ultron and Ant-Man. And, you know, I just chose Age of Ultron. Like, I don't really know how to explain it or why. It's just like, I felt like that one was just more Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get you.
Yeah.
So mine was really tough to choose my favorite from this one because it's between two movies. And it's Ant-Man or Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And it's hard to choose between those two for me because Winter Soldier is this like dark and full of action, like espionage and like trying to figure out who the bad guy is really, and like having the Bucky Barnes aspect in there is really, really awesome. Like to see that emotional reaction from Cap in that entire movie. Yeah. Learning about like everything, you know, the whole backstory of like Zola and all that stuff, right? And I think that movie had me on like the edge of my seat the whole time because I'm like, what could happen next? And like what it leads to next wasn't Age of Ultron, right? Like it had nothing. It wasn't a lead up to Age of Ultron, but it was a lead up to like Civil War and everything, right?
But they both lead up to Civil War,
right? But I mean more so in the fact that like you could go from that movie to Civil War and know exactly what's going on, you know? Yeah. Except then Scarlet Witch is just there. Like,
and also, well, the reason why Civil War started in Civil War was because of Age of Ultron.
Right. No, but you know what I'm saying though. Like,
yeah, I feel like those two movies worked hand in hand.
Yeah. But it is Captain America to Captain America versus Captain America to Avengers to Captain America, right?
In reality, though, it was like Phase 2 was the first time it was this movie leads to this movie to this movie to this movie for another movie in Phase 3. Right. And I feel like Phase 1 was more of like, here's this character. Yeah. Here's this character. Here's this character.
And here's an end credit scene that's going to tie something together later.
Yeah. And then here's one whole movie with all these characters. Yeah. Which worked. But then Phase 2, they changed it up to where, you know, Civil War plays hand in hand with Age of Ultron. And then Age of Ultron and Civil War together.
And then Thor the Dark World just over in the corner.
Taking a piss.
But I think it's, like I said, it's really tricky because Ant-Man, I love everything about it. Yeah. I have a soft spot for like shrinking people down to the size of ants.
Honey, like I Met the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Did you say Honey, I Met the Kids? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Yeah. My favorite video game right now of all time is Grounded. Yeah. Where you're shrunk down to the size of an ant. I don't know. Something about it is so interesting to me, and the way that they shot Ant-Man was really cool for that. So, and I just love Paul Rudd. I think I have to give it to Ant-Man as well. It's just all around. It's a fun movie. Is really underrated. Yeah. Too many people slept on this movie because they don't know who Ant-Man is and they think Ant-Man is stupid. They know that you think that. And this movie gives you a reason to like Ant-Man. I'm telling you right now.
Go watch Ant-Man again. Ant-Man. God damn it. So, keep an ear out for part 2.
For the part 2. But before we do part 2, before we go, real fast. What's your most anticipated movie from the next phases of Marvel? Like, what are you really looking forward to? There's not much that they've announced so far, but like, what's one that you're really ready for?
Fantastic Four.
Oh, obviously.
And the 2 Avengers, King Dynasty
and Secret Wars.
Secret Wars.
All right. I like those answers. I'm looking forward to the new Ant-Man. We don't have much more to wait for that.
Quantumania. Yeah.
Fantastic Four, yeah. I think my deciding factor there will be the casting for that. Yep. And then Deadpool 3.
Of course. Deadpool 3. That's coming out next year.
So lots to look forward to. We can talk more in depth about those later too. But I think for now, thanks for listening to BJ in the Morning and us break down a ton of Marvel movies. And I hope you're excited to listen to us talk about a ton more movies.
So keep an eye out for part 2.
Part 2, Marvelous BJs. I don't know what it's going to be
called. The Marvelous BJs.
I don't know what it's going to be called yet. But,
love it.
Thanks again for listening.
I am Juan.
And I'm Brendan.
And we will talk to you next time.
Later.